Thank you for listening to the BJJBrick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to the BJJBrick Podcast. This is episode 291. My name is Byron. I'm here with my good buddies Joe and Gary. Gary's back on the show. And Joe
I am back. I only missed part of a show.
You kind of stormed out of here a little bit.
Yeah, I'm back. I got a little upset when you guys, after it was over, sent out a group email saying how much better the show ended. So
those are the emails coming to us.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. Yeah, so I just wanted to, get back in that and change everybody's mind.
I appreciate you getting up and trying again. And then, of course, Joe, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Good to be on the line with you guys. Talk some jiu-jitsu. Yep.
And we're talking to Mason Fowler this week. He is going to be competing at ADCC coming up in September. So looking forward to seeing him there. And also we're hoping to be in attendance at that event. So we'll see how that plays out, but we're really looking forward to the opportunity to go there and cover that for you guys and share the experience and see all the action live. This is kind of the biggest event in submission grappling. It has been for as long as I could remember. So really exciting, I think. And it's great to have Mason here and tell us a little bit about his story and learn from him and the road he's had so far to get to where he's at. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say he just won the ADCC West Coast Trials, the 99-kilogram winner. And, so we can't have a better guest. I mean, he's a guy, he's a man on a mission. If he got on the mat with Byron or me, he would ragdoll us. And if we're looking for somebody to model, that's the guy. And speaking of all those things I just said, check out Byron's audiobook, 6 BJJ Training Games. And basically this is an audiobook for, I guess, blue belts or above. Wouldn't you say, Byron?
Yeah, I recommend you have all your fundamentals in and that white belt stuff. You understand the basic positioning and have some sort of a game already developed. And then these games will help improve that game.
Yep, and what I mentioned earlier, a couple of the games are man on the mission, model somebody, and ragdoll. My favorite, though, is number 6, the backwards grappler. I like to, always pass to one side, always Kimura one arm. And, when I do the backwards grappler, I'm working on the other side. So it makes me better. And not only does it make me better, it makes my training partners better. They're getting different looks. They're getting, different looks for me, have to adapt a little bit differently. So it's a great audiobook. It's got great reviews. It'll help your game. It'll help your teammates' games. And it'll put a smile on your face because you're going to be having fun while you're training. And the time, it's 1 hour and 2 minutes of content. So perfect.
Yep.
Gary, I had to get those extra 2 minutes.
That's really where I couldn't cut it down any smaller than that because that's really I needed those last 2 in there. But imagine the backwards grappler style of game. That's a big one because all the techniques that you're trying to do. You're trying to do your game, but if I always armbar someone's right arm, I'm armbarring the left arm. So I know how to do it. My body doesn't quite work out perfectly because everything's a little bit backwards. It's not my good side. And you find some different alternatives that you may not usually find in those situations. And also, the person who's defending it, oftentimes they're not used to defending that arm or that side. And it might throw them into a little different situation as well. So that one really opens up a lot of doors.
Yeah, like you said, Byron, I know when you were first talking to me about the backwards grappler, you said, wouldn't it be great if, as a grappler, we could be amphibious and be able to do submissions on both sides and pass on both sides? So, it's definitely going to help us become amphibious.
That has more to do with water and land.
Yeah. That's right. You meant ambidextrous.
Yes, we're talking about the donkey guard style, backwards.
Okay. Well, isn't one of your games the bathtub grappler? That would be amphibious.
Byron does that one by himself, though.
Solo drills.
Man.
Drill is the key word.
Joe, what do we have this week for the quote?
Yeah, it is the fight alone that pleases us, not the victory.
And that was by Gary Pascal.
Exactly.
If you've tuned in the last couple weeks, you will get that joke.
Yeah, this is our first quote by somebody not named Gary about 5 weeks. So, Blaise Pascal. So I don't know if that comes natural to us, that the fight alone is what pleases us and not the victory. I think everybody wants to win. But if you apply this to jiu-jitsu, I think you do it long enough and you really pursue it and you really study it and you fall in love with it. And then it gets to a point where I just go to class just for the grappling. I can't remember the last time I worried too much about winning and losing. I haven't been in a competition in years. And so I do think the longer you do this, the more you fall in love with it and the less you worry about wins and losses. Yeah,
well said, Joe. And not to diminish the other side of that quote, not just the victory, but the fight, the battle is the part that's enjoyable. I've had, back in the day, some matches that weren't all that difficult, and those that really didn't do anything for me. It was like not exciting, not fun, didn't feel rewarding winning it. But I've had matches where I lost or were very close, and those were really, I felt good about those. And so it is like we're looking out here on the mats, we're looking for like good competitive environments to roll in. And it might be you handicapping yourself while you roll with somebody, or it might be you having to play your best A game against somebody's kind of average game and they're kind of relaxed, whatever. But we want those ones that are kind of a fight. And that's where we grow, and that's where we get that sense of enjoyment out of it. Because if you spend a lot of time like Gary, he'll grapple in the kids class, and he just wins all the time, most of the time. But occasionally one of the other kids will kind of get the better of him, and I think those are your favorite matches, Gary.
Yeah, there was a 43-pounder who really put it to me the other day. And not 143, 43 pounds. And really put it to me the other day, and I really grew, I think, after taking a beating from that kid.
Yeah, that's one way to grow. Another way is to take like an off the mat lesson and learn from that. And for hopefully a couple of weeks here, Gary will share some off the mat lessons from like the business world. And what do you have for us this week, Gary?
Well, Byron, are you looking for a job?
No, I'm not right at the moment.
Well, good, because I wouldn't hire you.
I know you would.
But, Joe, on the other hand, he's in. But hey, kind of what I'm talking about is, there's times here at my job where I have to hire people, and you can give me a nice, big, fancy resume. You could come in with the biggest qualifications ever. Great education and all sorts of stuff, but one thing that I really look for when I'm hiring somebody is I like somebody who played sports. I like somebody who has done jiu-jitsu. I like somebody who maybe has wrestled. I like to get this person talking to find out what their hobbies are. And the one thing I see about jiu-jitsu, about sports, is the couple things that I really like about hiring people who've done that is they know how to work as a team. They let's just take a jiu-jitsu person, a wrestling person. We're only as good as our training partners, as the people who push us to different limits. Kind of just what we were talking about the fight there. But we have to work together as a team, but we have to get out there and perform when it's time. We can't hide behind the team. And that's the cool thing about jiu-jitsu. The cool thing about wrestling is, it's a team atmosphere. You're helping each other. You're making each other grow. And then once you get out there on the mat, you're out there. You have to go. You have to take all those lessons you learned. And, I look at that. I think it translates very good to the business world. I see one thing that's lacking all the time of people is they're not very good teammates. They're all out for themselves. They're out to make themselves look better and, take all the credit. And, I personally think if you're going to succeed in the business world or on the mat, as we drag it back on the mat, You have to be looking out for your teammates. You have to be striving to make your teammates better. You have to be striving to make your coworkers better. And as each one of you gets better, the whole gets better. As Byron, Joe, and I get better, we're going to make each other better. I'm going to have to defend my heel hooks more because Joe's got so good at it. I'm going to have such a good side control escape because Byron's just putting crazy pressure on me. And as we all get better at these things, the whole is getting better. The gym is getting better. The business is getting better. We're going to make more money. We're going to have more, students come into our gym. We're going to have more medals. People are going to want to train with us and want to work with us. And, I've just found through the years, it just seems like, a lot of jiu-jitsu or wrestlers or, athletic people, who've grown up playing team sports do better in my realm, in my business world, that those are the people I like to hire to make my team the best.
That's awesome, Gary. And we don't realize that when, if you're hiring somebody who's just coming out of school, maybe or something like, sometimes the value that you learn in those team environments of those sports really sticks with you and affects the way you think about a team. You rely on them and you're there for them. And those are two big things that you learn as a team member.
Yeah, and one thing I guess I wanted to say too, and I totally forgot about saying it though, but man, I just think if, you think of the hard times that you've had on the mat, in the wrestling room, in the jiu-jitsu room, where you're just getting smashed, where you want to quit, you're on the basketball court and your coach is telling you to run more and you want to quit. You can't quit. You don't want to let down your team. You want to be in that starting lineup. You want to, win that next match. So it just seems like people who have grown up, playing sports don't know the word, I can't. They've been pushed by a boss, by a coach to achieve stuff that they didn't think was possible. They've pushed their minds and their body to a length that, is way past their comfort zone.
Yeah, if you've never wrestled in high school or you've never watched high school wrestling practice, just watching that will give you a whole new appreciation for, the type of kids that they're developing. If you wrestle through high school, oh my goodness, you're going to be tough, And then when you get into real life, here I'm dragging it back off the mats. You get into real life and things get difficult and. You can almost say nothing's going to be as difficult as a week's worth of high school wrestling practice. And, if you did that for years and years, you're going to be in pretty good shape when it comes to mental toughness for sure.
Yeah. And, I look at your job and your job, Joe, and your job, Byron. Joe, you could be out there in the middle of the ocean and, have a issue, the ship's taking on water. And I guarantee you the high school wrestler, the jiu-jitsu guy, they're going to be a lot more calm than the other people. And Byron, I could see the same thing in your group. I know there's a lot of guys who train jiu-jitsu or have wrestled or played sports in the fire department ring where, fire department where you're at there. And, those are the people I want on my side when the poop hits the fan.
Keeping the PG there, Gary. Appreciate that, man.
I'm sorry, the doo-doo hits the fan.
Yeah, I guess poop is PG-13. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, good off the mat lesson, Gary, and I look forward to what you have next week, and I'm sure it'll be a good one.
Yeah, like I said, when I'm hiring somebody, I don't want somebody, folds like a cheap suit like Byron when the pressure. So we can't have that.
I don't fold like that on purpose. It's just I'm getting stacked, and that's just how my body moves. It's not anything I do on purpose.
Yeah, but Byron, remember though, your bad back. When it seems like you always hurt your back going for triangles and getting stacked. Isn't that where you hurt yourself?
You know what, Gary? I have quit doing triangle chokes pretty much. It went from my main submission to I haven't done one in I can't remember last time.
Yeah, isn't that a little crazy? My wrists are so bad that I can't even do guillotines anymore because if I turn my wrist at a certain angle, I'll tap myself out. I've had to stop doing guillotines, and that was one of my favorite moves.
Yeah, you had a great guillotine. And mine is more of a prevention thing. It's just not the smart way for me to stay on the mat,
well,
consistently.
Mine, same thing. It's like I won't be able to move. I won't be able to turn my wrists or post. Actually, I can't post anymore.
Gary, is that part of why you just play no-gi mostly?
No, it doesn't. It's just weird. Like I use like the, I guess the Marcelo grip, for my guillotines. And man, if like I can grab a gi but if I just turn my wrist at a certain angle, it's brutal.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, we all have to adapt our games as we learn and change, on purpose or on accident.
Yeah.
But somebody who has adapted his game brilliantly has been Mason Fowler. So let's hear from him and learn a little bit about and from Mason Fowler. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
As a side hobby, I often use my grip strength to go rock climbing. Instead of using a harness, I just use my BJJ belt. I know what you were thinking, but don't worry about me. My belt never comes untied. I am the only person with a flip phone iPhone. Oh, it's not what you think. It does not fold. If I flip my phone over, there is an adolescent digital Jiu-Jitsu turtle shell that protects it from damage. I name my phone Van Gogh. I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BjjBrick Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Mason Fowler to the BjjBrick Podcast. Mason, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here, learn from you. I think you've turned a lot of heads lately with your competing and your level of jiu-jitsu. Could you do us a little favor and kind of introduce yourself, maybe what got you started in jiu-jitsu and where you are today?
So my name is Mason Fowler. I'm 26. I've been training since I was 18. And initially I started training for MMA. I was a huge fan of the UFC, and I wanted to be a fighter. I thought I was like a badass, which really I know now that I wasn't. I was playing rugby in high school. And once I graduated high school, I got a regular job. I couldn't play rugby anymore. And really I just needed something else to fill the time and like get my aggression out. So started off with training for MMA, and then about 3 years ago switched paths, and now I do jiu-jitsu full time. So, and it was a tough decision to make, but I think it's probably one of the best decisions I ever made.
What was tough about it?
Just because I thought I had a lot of potential in the sport, and that was always my number one passion. But it was just a decision I had to make, just pretty much for my health and longevity in life and life after fighting. And I was already starting to kind of see the early signs of like the dangers of getting punched in the head every day. But I didn't want to go back to working a 9-to-5 and go back to like that regular life after I had already experienced a little bit of kind of the life of a full-time athlete. So jiu-jitsu was my way to not get punched in the face, but also to still be an athlete and maybe get kind of famous one day.
Did you ever enjoy the striking aspects of MMA as much as the grappling, or did you kind of lean more towards the grappling?
Loved it. I mean, I loved boxing. I loved Muay Thai. I still do love it. I just can't do it anymore. I just know that it's not smart for me to do it. But yeah, for sure, love training boxing, love sparring. I love sparring too much. That was the issue, is that I would want to fight every day in the gym. I was always sparring too hard. And in jiu-jitsu, you can do that. You can grapple hard every day and be fine. But with boxing and kickboxing, if you're like punching each other in the head every day, it's not gonna.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to have that quality of life when you get old. If you spend all your young years getting hit in the head and taking brain trauma.
For sure, and I'm okay with like, I don't know, having a bad back when I'm older, or like having a bad knee. But when your brain is damaged, and you start to age and you can't remember anything, you get dementia, like, man, that's going to be miserable.
Yeah, and that is one good thing about jiu-jitsu is that I don't think it's that hard on the brain. I mean, we do get some concussions and that sort of thing, but it's not purposely taking shots to the head repeatedly. When you started doing MMA, did you have what kind of a athletic basis you bring to that?
Yeah, so I just you know what, my first grappling experiences was like me and my friends getting drunk on the weekends and like wrestling each other in people's living rooms. And I would watch the UFC, and I swear I would be doing like arm bars and like guillotine chokes and stuff like that just from like watching it. So like my first day training in an MMA gym, I was like I was submitting some of the amateur fighters from having no training, just from like watching the UFC and then being a decent athlete. So that was pretty much my background. And then I did play rugby, which is like a brutal sport. So I definitely had like some good cardio. Like I was pretty athletic and I had like that grind, because rugby is definitely a grind.
Today now, full-time jiu-jitsu, is that correct? Or submission wrestling? Okay. Looking at that, like from your past, how big of a help was that to have done MMA, to have done rugby? Are you using that as like a base, or have you kind of thrown a lot of that out?
I don't really know how helpful it was. I mean, a lot of my injuries that I get now are like little things that started when I was playing rugby. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was helpful. If I would have like just started jiu-jitsu when I was 10 years old, that probably would have been more helpful, or wrestling, but I didn't, and I can't go back now. So I try not to like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I try not to.
Well, you can't dwell on the past. Yeah, exactly.
I try not to dwell on it and just accept like the way things happened is the way that it was supposed to be.
But so now you're practicing and training for big jiu-jitsu events. I think probably bare minimum, like that style of training and practice you've learned to deal with, during rugby and during your MMA training, and just being able to not walk off the street at 18 and like learn how to train super hard, and you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely like prepped me for knowing how to train and knowing how to be an athlete. And then just like on the early stages of my athletic career, learning how to diet and learning like body mechanics, balance, flexibility, all that stuff definitely did carry over to the MMA and the grappling training.
Do you so you train both with the gi and no gi? That's correct?
Yeah.
Do you have a preference on one or the other?
You know what? My competition record is a lot better no gi, but I love training in the gi. I train like 90% in the gi, but I think I've only like in my life lost maybe like 3 no gi matches ever, and I've lost plenty more in the gi. So I don't know. I think competition wise, I'm a little bit better no gi, but definitely in training, love the gi and love no gi.
And what belt level are you at?
I'm a brown belt.
Okay, and so when you compete at no gi, do you get mixed up a lot with black belts and other upper belts? Is that common?
Yeah, so it depends on what tournament. So like IBJJF, brown belts only compete against brown belts, but in some other tournaments like NAGA or like the ADCC Trials, they'll put them all together. So it'll be like sometimes they do advanced no gi, and that'll be like purple, brown, and black. Or ADCC Trials was open to all belts. So it just depends on the tournament.
So how was the ADCC Trials?
Oh, it was great, man. It was amazing. I think it was like one of my breakout performances.
Yeah.
For sure.
Could you describe how it went or any of your matches?
Yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. We had they had us scheduled there at like 10 a.m., and then my first match wasn't until 5 p.m., so we were all just like waiting around to compete. And then, yeah, my first match, I felt like really sluggish, just from sitting around all day. And then after that, like as the matches went on, I just started feeling like better and better, more confident. And then by the finals was definitely like my best performance.
Yeah, that you had a lot of impressive matches, and that was cool. You kind of had you started with omoplata, and how did you end it?
Yeah, it was like an omoplata with like a rear naked choke combined. It was tight.
Is that something you do a lot in training, or is it just there?
I've never hit that before, ever, in practice or in a tournament. Usually, okay, so I don't know if you could see, but I was going for like an S grip at first.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying to like connect my hands like this, because usually that's all you can grab. But like, I was connecting and he still wasn't tapping. So I ended up just like from here, like sliding it all the way through. And I don't know, his shoulder was like completely out of the socket. It was really bad.
Yeah, that was a dramatic ending to that.
No, for sure.
And so, winning that match, what happens next?
I was hyped. I was just so happy because, like, I knew the guy, and I definitely knew that I should beat him, and I knew I was going to beat him, but I wanted to like put a statement because everyone was watching. All eyes were on me. And I feel like that's when I perform the best, is when like all the pressure's on. So yeah, it definitely worked out. And I was just hyped. I was hyped that I caught him in like a flashy move, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to hit him in something where like people would remember me. And I definitely think I did that.
Yeah. So now you have to train for another tournament. Yeah. Looking at going to ADCC?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right after I won, I was like, oh shit, now I'm doing ADCC. And I looked up the brackets from 2017 and I was like, oh my God, like what did I get myself into? Like, this is ridiculous. Every guy is just the best of the best. So yeah, it's going to be, I mean, it's 4 matches. That's all it is. 4 matches. If I could win that, then I'm going to be in the history books, especially if I win as a brown belt. It'll be insane.
Yeah, and ADCC has had a history of people who weren't black belts doing pretty well. You know, it's not.
Yeah, I think it's because of the rule set.
Okay.
The rule set caters more towards wrestlers, because if you pull guard, it's a penalty point. So it's a lot easier for wrestlers to win because the jiu-jitsu guy can't take them down and has to pull guard, gets an automatic penalty point, and then the wrestler just has to be smart and stay on top and not get submitted. And they can win the match like that.
Have the rules been like the rules you competed under a little while ago? Are those locked in for the main tournament, or might they change?
I think so, but who knows?
Yeah,
I mean, anything.
Because I mean, it seems like they kind of tweak them a little bit every time just to have as much action as they can, or just see what, like, they might start like I don't know if I can't remember what it was, like a time would start and no points for a little while, and then points would start in. Is that what was the rule set that you had?
Yeah, so at the trials, it's 6-minute matches. The first 3 minutes, there's no points. The second 3 minutes, there's points. In the finals, it's 8 minutes, and there's no points for the first 4 minutes. But in the finals, they give out the penalty point if you pull guard in those first 4 minutes. So because I pulled guard, I was down by 1 penalty point. But I knew that if I had 8 minutes to work, I was going to be able to score on him. Or I thought I was going to submit him for sure with the omoplata. But I was telling people I was going to omoplata him just because I felt so confident. But I knew, okay, I have 8 minutes. Like, I'm definitely going to score on him. Like, it's okay if I give him the penalty point. So that's why I pulled first.
Yeah. And that's great to have that confidence and to know that when you pull guard, you're going to do something with your guard, either sweep somebody or submit them and make up for that penalty.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Do you think your strategy will change much between now and when you compete against the best in the world?
Yeah, it's going to have to change because now the guys know what I'm going to do. Because I had pretty much the same. I mean, I pulled half guard all my matches. Fake the shot, pull half guard. That's what I did all 5 of my matches at the trials. And at this level, guys are going to study that for sure. So I can't just go out there and just pull half guard and do the same exact thing I did at the trials. I'm going to have to like switch my game up definitely.
Yeah. And then so then I think there's room in there to mess with them a little bit. If they think you're going to pull half guard and you fake a shot to set that up, I don't think that they defend your shot as well. Or
exactly.
They might be open to other things. If you think you know what someone's going to do and then they hit you with something else, it always surprises you. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so that's cool. And I'm excited to see you compete in that tournament. And do you have plans to compete much up until then, to kind of like tune up, or to just normal training and normal competing?
Yeah, not to tune up, but I definitely have to. I'm going to finish out the Ghee season. We're in the middle of the Ghee season right now. So I got a bronze at the Europeans, which I'm not happy about. So I definitely want to. I'm going to do the London Grand Slam in 2 or 3 weeks, and then that should qualify me to do the Abu Dhabi World Pro. So I'm going to do that, the Pan Ams, and then hopefully I'll get the travel package to do the World Pro. And then after that, that'll be in April, and then the Worlds is at the end of May. And then, so that's going to be my last, 4 tournaments in the Ghee season. And then after that, I'm going to take like an off season just to rest my body to make sure I don't get injured. And then we'll be all 100% no Ghee training after that for the for ADCC, which is in September. So plenty of time. I'm going to have to take at least a month off after the Worlds, I think, because like we train so hard here at Kyle's gym. I'm going to need some off time to heal my body. And then after that, we'll get like right into training camp.
How has your training there at Kyle's gym been?
Man, it's brutal. I've never been so tired before in my life.
Tell me a little bit, maybe, of like what a week looks like. How many days a week are you training? How many hours on those days, and what you're doing?
So just because I haven't like really adapted to the training they have here yet, I just am doing like the comp classes. So it's Monday through Friday, 1 to 3. They do an hour of drilling, hour of rolling. So eventually I want to start adding in some either like weightlifting sessions or cardio or doing some of the night classes. But right now I'm just like trying to let my body adapt to the pro training because it's like so hard.
The guys who are in the room with you are a bunch of studs as well, and it makes a crazy environment for getting good at jiu-jitsu.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's brutal.
Could you describe, like, if someone's going to watch you compete for the first time, what could they expect, or what would you want to like prep them with as far as like watch for this, that type of information?
If someone's gonna compete against me?
No. If someone's just a fan watching you compete, online or ADCC or whatever, like what do you bring to the mats that fans like to see?
I would say the difference between me and most guys is that like I like a scrap. I don't want to like just weigh and win by one advantage. I'm definitely like trying to beat the guy. I'm like I want to break him. So I feel like I have a more exciting style than most guys. And most guys play close guard and sit in the close guard or sit in 50-50 for 5 minutes and then try to win by one sweep. But I'm definitely trying to like beat the guy. I'm trying to pass and submit the guy.
Interviewed Jared Dopp a while ago, and he did very well at ADCC as a purple belt. And one of his key strategies was to just keep pushing those guys that aren't used to that pace. And then towards the end of the match, that's the time he's going to win. So he knew full well he wasn't in for a quick match. He's going to push the guy, make him tired. And then, that world-class black belt becomes a little bit more attainable as far as being able to beat that person.
Exactly. You got to make him tired. They say fatigue makes cowards out of men.
It does me. like you're training hard, and that's the thing. Like you can't fight as well when you're tired, and some of that is like cardio, some of that's position wise, and there's a lot to that, and it's hard to fight like you want your body to do when you're exhausted.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So are you teaching any jiu-jitsu, or are you mostly there training?
Yeah. So I got a coaching job here at Kyle Terra's gym. I'm only teaching a couple classes right now, and then I just cover when they need guys, when guys need time off or whatever if they're traveling. So I was teaching like 11 classes a week plus privates, like 5 or 6 privates a week in Fresno. But now I've kind of restart, so I have to like start building that up again, which it'll happen. It just takes time.
Yeah. Like when you teach a private lesson and it goes really well for the student, they learn a lot. What typically has a student done to make it go well? Like, do they bring you a bunch of questions to you, or do you kind of roll with them, or do you know them, or what makes somebody get the most out of a private lesson?
That's the best is when they have questions, because then I don't always have like a perfect answer for them, but if someone has questions, I can give them something specific to work on. If not, I mean, during my private, I'm going to do kind of just whatever technique I've been working on lately, or maybe I'm just going to work on some techniques I was working on with the person before you. So yeah, definitely I would say bring questions, bring some kind of problems. Like, hey, I'm having trouble escaping the back position, or I'm having trouble finishing this submission, or I'm having trouble sweeping from half guard. Bring a question, because then I can work on something specific for your game that you're having problems with, instead of just giving you some cookie cutter technique, because anyone can do that.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the cookie cutter technique or whatever, like, that's what you teach at a seminar, a private lesson. Yeah, that's great advice. Bring some problems, and that will be specific to your game, and present them to somebody that could help you out. That's great advice.
No, definitely, yeah.
In order to kind of get a glimpse of to like what you were earlier on in Jiu-Jitsu, maybe make you more relatable to the everyday grappler. What were you like as a blue belt? Like, okay, you came in, you did some MMA, you came in, started doing Jiu-Jitsu. Did you get a blue belt pretty quickly, or did you get that in your MMA career? And what were you like?
Yeah, no, I definitely, I was a monster when I was a blue belt. I wish that I had like the same fight and scrap that I did when I was a blue belt, because I was like crazy, like no, I mean, some technique, but like no patience, just like nonstop coming forward and attacking. Like sometimes I wish I had that still, because I'm definitely more patient now. But yeah, I got my blue belt really fast, like within a year. And then I got my purple belt really fast too, like within a year after that. So I wish that, but it was because I was doing MMA. It doesn't matter what belt you are when you're an MMA fighter. It's more of like a confidence thing. Like, yeah, I'm a purple belt. But I definitely wish that I would have taken more time at the lower belts and developed more of like with the jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff. But it wasn't my focus. I did a couple tournaments for fun, but I didn't really care about it. My main focus was always for MMA. So it was rough for me when I, as a purple belt, started competing in jiu-jitsu full-time. There was definitely a learning curve, because I didn't know any of the points or any of the rules. And there's definitely a strategy. And I didn't have a lot of experience in jiu-jitsu tournaments. So I just competed like as much as I could for like 2 years at purple belt. And now it's like I have so many tournaments under my belt, I feel like I'm like caught up. But I was trying to compete every month. Yeah,
man, that would help somebody get better quicker. And I think that the aggressiveness that you had, it may not always work out in any particular match, but when you have a decision to like do an action or to wait a little while, and you tend to do an action, that also helps you learn faster, because you're doing more different things in jiu-jitsu. So I think that's a way to learn jiu-jitsu a little quicker as well. And you're a really good athlete and all the other things that you bring. So,
and like I'll still like I can pull that out of me, like that grind, if I need to, like if I'm losing the match. If it's the last minute and I'm losing, like I promise you will always see me fight. Like I'm never gonna lay there and just accept it like a lot of these guys do. I'm surprised how many guys sit there and accept defeat in the last minutes.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, heart. They just want, I don't know. A lot of guys do talk about like using technique, like technique over strength. That's like Kyle's motto. But I mean, sometimes when the technique isn't working, you have to just kind of like pull something out of your ass and just make it happen.
Yeah. Sometimes as a more of a fan, it feels like that a guy would rather not get submitted, and he knows in the position that you're in now, he's not going to get caught, but he's also going to lose.
Yeah, guys would rather lose by one advantage or by 2 points instead of opening up with the fear of getting submitted, because then they can go tell their friends, "Oh, I just lost by 2 points." And I've been there too. When you're losing by 2 points and there's 30 seconds left and you're losing to a really good guy, in your head you think like, "Oh, I didn't get submitted, so that's like a moral victory." But you have to go out there and force yourself to open up. And if you get submitted, you get submitted. Losing is losing. Doesn't matter if you lost by 2 points or an advantage or by a submission, you lost. Yeah. So you have to get out of that habit.
So, you know, you haven't lost much without the Ghee on, but you've competed a ton. How do you, and this is a good question for anybody listening, like good advice, how do you come back from a match that you thought you maybe were going to win or that just didn't go well for you and grow from that?
Yeah, I used to get real salty when I lost. I used to be so mad when I lost. But if you're not losing, you're not competing enough. Anyone that competes at like the Europeans, Pan Ams, No-Gi Worlds, ADCC, like it's very rare that guys go through all those tournaments without having any losses. If you're 50-50 at the Worlds and the Pan, you're doing pretty well at black belt or brown belt. If you're 90% winning, then you're like one of the best guys. So you just have to accept that you're going to lose. And then just try to think about why you lost, what you need to work on, and have a different game plan for that guy, because you will go against him again, most likely. You have to learn from the losses, but not dwell on them and not let them affect your confidence.
Yeah, that is great advice. And sometimes it is just a matter of game plan or like a bad matchup. Like, Mason, if we competed, you'd beat me every time, no matter what my game plan was. But a lot of times when you're competing against somebody, it is just a matter like, well, if I would have been able to play top game instead of bottom game, it would have been a whole different match. Because, we've all had those roles while we're grappling, and it's like, man, I just got destroyed. And next week, same guy, and just a little bit different situation, and it goes way better. And that could happen, too, at a tournament. You just get one shot at it, and you happen to play the wrong game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, all you have to do is go up by 2 points and put the guy in close guard and stall it out, and anyone can win that way if they have a good strategy.
Yeah. Not the most exciting strategy, and that's why I like watching you compete.
Yeah.
You are looking for exciting matches. You are looking for like a great display of jiu-jitsu and just entertainment to watch as well.
For sure, but sometimes I am learning to play the game. That's for sure.
Yeah,
you have to know how to play the game sometimes. You can't just go balls to the wall every match.
Yeah, and I've had similar conversations with students at my gym. They go do a tournament, and their game plan is to submit everybody, not care about the points. But you probably could hit a guy that you can't submit. And do you want to get past that guy, or is that the end of your tournament right there? And so, you have to know you have to know how to play the game.
Yeah, or you just like make yourself so tired by trying to submit the guy, and then you have no gas in your next match,
Yeah. So you mentioned at ADCC at the trials there that you had to wait a long time before you actually competed. And I don't think that's a rare thing. What advice do you have for somebody who's sitting at a tournament and having to wait?
I've never sat for 7 hours.
Yeah, that is a long time. But like to think you're going to compete at like noon and actually it's like 4:00, or like just, do you have any advice of what to do or to how to spend that time and be? IBJJF is pretty good about competing on time, and they live update the brackets. So you can, a lot of tournaments nowadays, any tournament that uses Smooth Comp or like IBJJF has their own system, they live update on your phone. I think it's super important for tournaments to use that, because then you can warm up
and you have some kind of idea of when you're going to be competing. If they just tell you to be there at 10 and you're going to compete anytime between 10 and 5 p.m., you have no idea when to warm up, stretch out, or like a lot of people take like pre-workouts, or they like to, like me, I like to eat at a certain time, like eat 2 hours before I compete, drink coffee maybe like 45 minutes before, and stretch out and warm up. So I have my own little routine, and I think most guys do have a routine like that. So, yeah, I would just say develop kind of like your own little routine of things you like to do. That way it just kind of becomes normal. It's like, okay, it's this time I'm going to eat, I'm going to do this, I'm going to stretch, then I'm going to warm up, and then I'm going to compete. And I also have heard a lot of people that don't like to warm up, which I think is ridiculous. All the studies show that you perform way better when your body's warm and when you're loosened up. And then also a lot of people get really nervous. And I've found that as soon as I warm up and I'm sweating, I'm like, okay, like I'm kind of in the zone. I'm ready to go. And I think definitely that'll help the nerves as well.
That's a good so warming up actually makes you it makes total sense. It's better than sitting there being nervous.
100%. And man, jiu-jitsu is so far behind other sports. Like in collegiate wrestling, all of my friends that are wrestlers are like super into warm-ups, and like you see jiu-jitsu guys wearing shorts and flip-flops with no socks and t-shirts and just standing there waiting to compete. And I'm like, bro, you're freezing cold. What are you doing? Like, you're going to have no explosiveness. You're going to gas out quick, and you're probably going to like tear your ACL if you twist the wrong way. All of my friends that are wrestlers are like there early, wearing socks and shoes and sweats and a sweater and a beanie, and doing like a crazy warm up before they compete where they're drenched in sweat, because like with the collegiate sports, they follow the studies and they follow the research. So I don't know. I just feel like we're way behind with jiu-jitsu. Like guys absolutely do not know what they're doing.
So how does like this is a good like way to prep the day of the tournament, but how does this look before like a training day? So you say you like to eat 2 hours before a tournament. Are you eating 2 hours before you go train?
For sure. I try to do everything the same when I compete as I do when I train. For sure.
So what's a good type of meal before you, like on competition day, what are you able to bring to the tournament and also eat 2 hours beforehand?
Yeah, it depends. If I have a kitchen, I like to make eggs and avocado. I mean, eggs and avocado and like maybe some almonds. That's like my go-to. If I don't have a kitchen, my next go-to is Starbucks breakfast sandwiches. I don't know why. That's just, they never let me down.
That's good. And then your warm up for a competition, it sounds like it's a pretty good intense warm up that gets you sweaty and gets you loosened up. Is there a particular thing you do, or are you with a partner, or are you doing some stuff by yourself? I prefer to have a partner with me. I just do my stretching routine, and my old coach was the best at it because we would go really intense, like we were rolling, but he would like let me work, you know? So that's the best if you have someone to kind of like give you maybe 50% resistance, and then you're going full speed and like doing like a takedown to a guard pass to like a back take to a submission, like some hard explosive movements. And then if I don't have a partner, I'll just go run sprints in the hallway. And like, I try to really make myself tired, like when I'm going, like not just like get a little sweat in, but to the point where my body's starting to feel like fatigued and like I want to stop, but then I'm like, okay, let's do a couple more, just because I know that I'm like getting that first wind out. Is that why some people feel better, like as the matches go? Technically, they should be getting harder. Like your first match, if statistically, will be your easiest match, and your last one is probably your toughest one. But
opposite.
Yeah, but is that because people are getting more and more warmed up? Or
for sure, even when I warm up good, my first match is always the worst. Always. If someone really wants to beat me, go against me on the first match, because I swear, if you go against me in the 5th match or 6th match in a deep bracket and my confidence is up and I'm warm and I'm loose, I promise you I'm going to beat you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's kind of what it sounds like with your rolling with like a coach, and they're going 50% and you're going full speed. It's just it makes you feel like everything is working today. Like the techniques I'm doing, the sweeps I'm doing, my chokes, they're all working great. And it's just kind of getting that feeling before you even started your match.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely.
Cool, man. We got a lot of good advice out of you today. I appreciate that.
No, thank you, bro. I hope it helps.
Yeah. One more question here, because not everybody can train, as much as you do. And a lot of us are just more, it's just a fun activity that we do as much as we can. But a lot of us can train like 2 or 3 times a week. Do you have any advice for the person who can't make it in and train as hard as you, but full-time job, family, and they come in and train when they can?
Yeah, I would say that to not compare yourself to other people, because a lot of people are ultra competitive and they want to be there every day to be the best one on the mats, or else they're not going to train. I see a lot of people with that mindset that have a full-time job and only can make it maybe like 2 or 3 times a week. And so instead of just like being the best version of themselves possible, they compare themselves to the young kids on the mat that are training 6 days a week, that they're never going to be better than. And so they quit. Either you see that, or you see guys that want to do 5-6 times a week and get burnt out or get injured, and then they quit. So my advice would be start off at 2 times a week or 3 times a week and be consistent. If you train 2 or 3 times a week for 10 years, you're going to get your black belt and you're going to be really good at jiu-jitsu. If you train 8 times a week, twice a day, for 1 year, and then get burnt out and quit, you're not going to be a black belt. You're never going to reach your full potential. So focus more on the consistency instead of trying to jam as many sessions in a day as you can.
Man, that is awesome advice. Mason, I know you are doing a lot there, but you do have some support. You have some sponsors and stuff. Who's helping you out?
Yeah, so I got to shout out CTA, Kyle Terra Association, for taking me in. I really needed to move to a bigger team. My coach that was working at our gym moved to Florida, and I had no coach. I didn't have a lot of high-level training partners. So shout out to Kyle Terra and Yuri Samos for taking me in and welcoming me to the team. And then my biggest sponsor has been Moya brand. They always take care of me, so huge thanks to them. And then I have Chronic Tacos in Fresno, Pokirito in Visalia, and then MDM Miguel De Loza Management, and then also my buddy Rick Falcon. So Miguel De Loza and Rick Falcon are like 2 of my biggest supporters. They always help me find sponsors and help me out. And then my business partner, Amar Hussein, he helps me out a lot too. Helped me start my first business. And he's been kind of like a financial mentor to me. So thanks to everyone. I got a lot of people surrounding me. Anyone successful, man, like they can't do it by themselves. I have a big team and a big circle of friends and family supporting me. So thanks to everyone.
That is awesome. What business are you involved in?
Yeah, so we started a jiu-jitsu tournament. We held 1 event so far. We're probably going to do our second one in the summer. It's just in Fresno right now, but we're looking to expand for sure.
What's it called?
It's called Fight to Finish, F2F.
Okay. What's the website to that, or a Facebook thing? Or
Yeah, it's the Instagram is Fight to Finish BJJ.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll check that out. Anything how would you describe the tournament to somebody interested in going?
So we wanted to mimic the IBJJF system. We used the IBJJF rule set. And the reason why is because there's nothing in Fresno that utilizes the IBJJF rule set. The tournaments that we do have in Fresno don't use the advantages. They don't use the same legal and illegal moves or any of the same rules, faults. Nothing is the same. So just one of my experiences that I had is I did our local tournament that we have in Fresno. And then I went out to the Worlds as my second jiu-jitsu tournament, and I lost by an advantage. And I actually thought I was winning the match because some of the rules that they have locally aren't the same as the ones that they use in IBJJF. So I ended up losing by an advantage, and I thought that I won the match, and the ref raised the other guy's hand. So I think it's really important that if you want to compete and be a world champ in jiu-jitsu, you need to know the IBJJF rule set. They're the number one tournament. So that's why I wanted to start a tournament with their rule set. So, and we use the same match, the same exact match that IBJJF uses, we use. We want to kind of try to mimic them as much as possible, just to give someone, and we're not trying to be the IBJJF. We're trying to give all the jiu-jitsu practitioners in the Valley, the Central Valley, we want to give them the opportunity to experience the same rule set, kind of as a training session for the bigger tournaments.
And that's cool. It sounds like you found like a market that needed something, and you're filling that spot. That's it's a great. It sounds like a great service you're doing for the people that are around you in Fresno.
We're trying. Also, it's a business, so we are going to try to make some money off it. So we're not just being, we're not just, I don't know, we're not just volunteers. It's definitely a business opportunity. But I mean, we do definitely want to grow the jiu-jitsu scene in Fresno as well. We have a couple tough competitors coming out of Fresno now, so we want to keep it going. Yeah.
Well, the better you do, the more likely you're going to keep doing it, and the healthier the whole thing will be. So, yeah. I want you to make money at this and it to be successful, not just a side hobby that doesn't do anything for you, and then when you actually don't have that time available, it's gone. So, yeah, the more money you make and the more people support it, the more likely it'll be around for years to come.
Definitely.
Well, cool. How could somebody find you or connect with you? What's the best way to do that?
The best way I would say is on Instagram. My Instagram is my name, Mason Fowler, MMA. So, find me on Instagram. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM. I try to respond to everyone. And stay connected and follow me throughout this crazy journey that I'm on right now.
Yeah, we're excited to see you in all your tournaments you have coming up, and I hope to be able to make it to the ADCC when it happens, so it'd be nice to meet you there.
Nice. Yeah, I look forward to meeting you, bro.
All right, we'll let you go and get to work there, but thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, I appreciate it. Have a good day.
And I want to thank Mason for hopping on the show with us. It was great to get to know him and to talk with him. I urge you to go follow him on social media. I'll put links in the show notes, and really watch him as he trains for ADCC and the upcoming competition. And it's going to be an exciting time, and very impressed with his performances so far, and definitely highlighted there at the West Coast Trials. So very grateful that he is up for being on the show and sharing some of his story with us.
Yep, and if you liked the show, the interview as much as we did, make sure and tell a friend about it. Share this episode with them via Facebook or any other social media platform. We're active on Facebook. We're active on YouTube, and every now and then you'll find Byron on Instagram. So tell your friends and check us out on social media. Yeah,
that's how we know we're old. Because none of us do that well in Instagram, and that's anytime I say, so what's social media? Oh, Instagram. If they're under 40.
Byron, though, what's your Snap?
I don't have Snapchat. we got a podcast. That's our main thing.
I got Snap, Crackle, Pop when I try and get it.
Joe for the win.
Very nicely done. Guys, for the article of the week, it's a very short article and also a pretty short video. It's about 1.5 minutes long, and this guy is talking about the role that sports play with kids. And I watched this and I was like, this has got to be an article of the week, even though it's mostly a little video. So we'll play the video. We'll put a link in the show notes where you can learn more, obviously. This is on childmind.org. And check out the link if you're interested in this. But if this just doesn't yell, get your kids into jiu-jitsu, I don't know what does, because he's talking about sports in schools and that sort of thing and the benefits that it has. But there's nothing better than jiu-jitsu for any of the ages of kids. There's no seasons. They could do it year-round. It's, this just yells. When I saw this, it just yells, do jiu-jitsu. So here's the little clip from the article.
Another component of the Vermont family-based approach is that we really support children being on sports teams. We don't support them being on sports team because we want to create the next great athlete. We know they won't be the wonderful champions that the Boston Bruins or the Boston Red Sox are certain to be. We do it because of the benefits of being in a goal-directed environment with peers who expect you to behave well, with an adult other than your parent trying to teach you goal-driven principles. In our research in the Netherlands with Dorette Bumsma, we've shown the protective effects of being on a sports team for the whole population. 70% of girls, almost 80% of boys up at age 13 were on sports teams. They used less drugs. They had better body mass image. They had less emotional behavioral problems. They got in less trouble. Now, this is overwhelming when you think of the fact that so many kids who enjoy exercise up till 12 or 13 have it taken away from them because of societal norms. Eco de Geist, Micah Bartels, and I have an exercise grant, and in it we wrote a paper that shows that environment mandates all of exercise behavior and being on teams up till age 13. But at age 13 it switches to genetic factors. And you start to think about only children genetically predisposed to exercise are on sports teams from 13 or over. This is a really sad condemnation of our society because it was schools, teachers, families, societal norms that said let's make teams, fields available to children because we value exercise. Yet when they turn 13, the most vulnerable time in their lives, we say only the best athletes can be on sports teams.
I love that he's talking about, that how good sports are for kids. And it's just so sad that when at around the age of 13 or so, they stop doing them if they're not good at them. And man, doesn't that just say jiu-jitsu? Because there's a lot of kids at 13 plus that aren't picking it up naturally, but still do it and enjoy it. And there's no reason for them to be kicked off the team or not make the cut. They still get those great benefits. And like two of them that really yelled at me was being in a goal-driven environment. Man, that's jiu-jitsu. That's good for kids to be in an environment with other kids that are pushing themselves, and then being kind of pushed by an adult that's not your parent. So being pushed to reach those goals by somebody other than mom or dad, that it's just a different feeling. You get coach, and for a 14 or 15-year-old to have that or to not have that because they're not particularly good at basketball because they're a short kid or they're not particularly fast, so they're not on the track team anymore. Man, jiu-jitsu is the answer for all these kids.
Yeah, Byron, I really like that. I didn't listen to it before you played it, and I know you said it screamed jiu-jitsu to you, and that was the first thing that I was thinking of while I was going through it, was jiu-jitsu, and it is a shame. You get to middle school, and all of a sudden, you got to make the middle school team or you're cut. If you're not one of the, top 10 basketball players, you're not making the team. And, I also look at like our local YMCA, and here in Wichita, their sports leagues are 12 years and under. They do have MAYB basketball and AAU basketball, but those you also have to make the team. It's kind of just like the middle school thing. So we get over 12, you do have to make that. I don't see a lot of options if you're not the person, as the author there said, the genetically predisposed person. So, what are you going to do, especially with, the results that show that you're going to have fewer emotional, fewer behavioral problems, less likely to do drugs, you're less likely to have a bad body image, you're going to be more healthier, and, it does scream jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, like Byron said, there's no seasons. You can do it all year long. You can ramp up in the summer, ramp up at certain times, and, scale down if you've got some other things going on. Let's say you're in choir or you're in an orchestra, and you can't, during seasons, or you're in the band and, you've got stuff going on during football, but, it's a year-round sport, 24/7, 365. Doesn't matter if you're 12 years old or 16 years old or 51 years old like Joe and I. We can always do it.
Hey, so I got a question for you guys. I completely agree. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. How do we as a jiu-jitsu community do a better job getting those kids in our schools? And I ask that question because
good point.
Most of the schools that I've gone to have a reasonably large adult training group, and they have a bunch of 5, 6, 8, and 10-year-olds. But I don't see a lot of 12, 14, 15-year-olds on the mats, to be honest with you.
Joe, that is awesome. I never really thought about that, but I was thinking how kids programs have grown, but I do think what you're saying. I do see more of the 10-year-olds than I do of 13 and 14-year-olds. And, I wonder if that has something to do with, all of a sudden you start, thinking of girls, you're maybe playing a little bit more, or maybe you're even getting to the point that you're getting a job. But, yeah, what we do need to find a way to, get more of those people involved in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so anybody listen to this, if you attend a school that's got a good training group of 14, 15-year-old kids, or if you run a school and you're having some success with that age group, man, drop us an email or a message on Facebook or something and let us know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the big overall thing is it's got to be enjoyable. I think just like in the other sports, the kids who are good at it, the genetically gifted ones, stick with it. So if you walk in and you're, 8 and you just super easy and you go through the ages and you hit 13, still, jiu-jitsu is still pretty easy for you. You're still picking it up very quickly. You're likely to stick with it. It's just your thing. But if it's not enjoyable, even if you're good at it or you're not that good at it, you're going to be gone. But if you go in there and you have a good time, and I just think it's easier to get back to and keep doing it. And the trick about jiu-jitsu is, even if you're not athletically gifted, you could still be good at it. You could if you've done jiu-jitsu for 3 years, and now you're that 14 or 15 year old kid, and a more athletic kid walks in about your same age, and they haven't trained, you're gonna feel like you're a top jiu-jitsu person against this other kid. It's just like skill is so important in jiu-jitsu, and I think that just having coaches that are positive and keep it fun and enjoyable and are able to part of it also is I'm all over the place here, but kids will go away for a season. They'll go play a different sport, or school gets kind of hard at this time of year or something like that, and then we need to get better at bringing them back after that season. After like a 16-year-old kid gets a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they're gone. Okay, we need to still get them back into the gym. We need to be sending them occasional Snapchat or whatever the kids are doing these days, and tell them, hey, we're missing the gym. Come in and enroll, even if it's open mat. If the kid has to pay for it now out of their own pocket, if the open mat's free or whatever you have that they could do. Figure out what, I think each kid's different. Figure out what their problem is and try to get around that for them. But I think probably like 80% of them are suffering from the similar issues, like the 80-20 rule. So focus on like the bigger group of why you're losing why you're losing those teens from on the mat there. That's a good point, Joe. And obviously we don't have a great solution, and we definitely appreciate any input from the listeners on that. But there's definitely value in people of all ages training.
Yeah, it dovetails well into Gary's life lesson, because the benefits that it has for kids, those benefits stick with them into adulthood. So get your kids training, get them involved in a sport.
I was just sitting there thinking, reading that first sentence, me and Joe are a little bit older than the average jiu-jitsu guy, but, I can tell you from when I started jiu-jitsu till now, I am definitely a lot stronger emotionally. And I don't know about behavioral. You guys know that I'm a little crazy there. But, jiu-jitsu has really helped my emotional life. And, it's just done wonders for me. I think it'd do wonders for me at 15, and it's going to do wonders for me next week when I turn 52. I don't think there's, these are going to, not just as I was as a child. Yeah, I think it's going to carry on to me till I'm 72 and beyond, as long as I'm training.
Yep. Gary used to cry every night after jiu-jitsu, and anymore it's only after the really rough training session.
Well,
so you've come a long way.
With that 43-pounder kid earlier that I was talking about.
He used to cry before and after jiu-jitsu, and now he just cries after. And during.
Yeah. But I didn't have a supportive coach. Like you were saying, for these young kids, you got to have a good supportive coach. Somebody who's tough, but also makes it fun. We want kids to have smiles on their face. They got to have fun doing it. And, Byron was my coach, and he wasn't very nice to me, so I cried during it.
I didn't use my Ghee to wipe away your tears. I used my Ghee to make more happen. Cold-blooded.
But most of the time, though, I was just crying because I didn't want to end up like my teacher, and I thought if I kept doing it, I was going to end up like him.
Yeah, that would be a bad thing.
Yes.
Or to give a quick shout out again to the website, childmind.org. The article is titled, "What Role Do Sports Play in the Mental Health of Children?" Check it out. Check out the link to the video. Share it with your coach or anybody who's thinking about getting their kids into jiu-jitsu. I could tell that I would imagine the guy in the video doesn't know about jiu-jitsu, or he would be saying this is a great one to choose because it's a lifelong way to stay fit. It's not just, you play football in junior high and high school, and then, not a lot of us are 45 years old playing football anymore. It's just not the type of thing you could do forever. But jiu-jitsu definitely fills that role. That's
what happened to me. I was playing basketball my whole life, and all of a sudden I got my 30s, and I don't know if, I started losing the luster of basketball. And
you got no ups after that.
Yeah. I mean, I really had no ups, but I needed something to replace it. And, this sport, it's funny, because basketball was my thing. And, after now doing jiu-jitsu and knowing as many people that I knew that played basketball, jiu-jitsu gets a hold of people. Like, I knew tons of people who played basketball and played at really high levels, but it just seemed like nobody, jiu-jitsu is almost like a drug. Like it's just weird how it changes people. There's all sorts of people who do jiu-jitsu, but it just affects people so much. Like, I played basketball all my life, and I had great times and everything, but I just don't ever remember, all the benefits. I mean, I knew I had fun and everything, but jiu-jitsu really helps me, like I said there, with my emotional problems and stress in the world. And maybe basketball did, but maybe I just, maybe before kids, so I didn't realize all the stresses I had, because I was doing it at a younger age. So maybe that might be a difference. But, jiu-jitsu is something else. It's really is a great, activity to get into.
The biggest change for Gary in basketball, when he was playing basketball, he won all his fights that he got into, and he could also slam it. And now when he's training jiu-jitsu, he loses most of his fights, and he doesn't slam anybody.
The thing is, though, the jiu-jitsu and basketball don't correlate, because now when I get on the basketball court and somebody throws an inbounds pass to me and I butt scoot dribbling all the way up the court, people look at me like I'm crazy.
They give you some space.
Yeah, yep.
What is this guy? Is that a travel?
They talk about breaking ankles in basketball, but it means a totally different thing, breaking ankles in our sport. So, I have to be careful.
There you go. Just one change of sports, the same words and a totally different meaning. Guys, want to give a quick shout out to some of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy this podcast and you want to help it continue to grow, we urge you to go to our Patreon page and send us some support. The most typical thing people do is pledge $1 per episode. And with that, I email you at a 5-inch BjjBrick Ghee patch and a sticker. They are tokens of our appreciation for your support of the podcast. I want to give a special shout out this week to Adam, Richard, and Caleb. Thank you guys for your support on Patreon. It really means a lot to us. And no new Patreon supporters this week. We're hoping for some next week. Gary,
yes.
If somebody wants to send you a happy birthday message, because this will come out, by your
after
birthday
my
time,
birthday,
after your birthday, send it to the Facebook group, or what's the best way to send Gary a birthday message?
To the Facebook group, or if you're friends with me on Facebook, or you can look up Gary Hull, Hull on Facebook, and
you pop right up.
Yeah, I was going to say there's probably a lot of Gary Hulls, so that might be kind of tough.
The best
Gary, what day is your birthday?
My birthday is February 28th.
Yeah, this will be aired way after that.
That's what I said. It's like, you're way off, Byron.
But it's not too late to wish him a happy birthday or send him a birthday gift. Really trying to get that going.
Oh, thanks, Byron. Hey, I accept money, gift cards,
Amazon credit.
Yeah, good with that stuff.
Oh, man. If you want to find us on Facebook personally, that's cool. A couple of recommendations. I'm easiest to find. I have, as far as I know, a unique name to the United States, Byron Jabara, Byron.
And look Byron's friends and find Joe and Gary.
Joe and Gary will be there. And then when you send us a friend request, which happens sometimes, occasionally we get a new friend request. If you're wearing some sort of a jiu-jitsu style of gear, approved. Thanks. We're assuming if you're not living in our areas that you found us through the internet or the podcast, whatever. But if you're just like wearing normal business clothes or just normal whatever, we get friend requests all the time from people who are just nobody that we know that are like. I get spam ones. Gary doesn't. He sends out spam ones. But say something like,
accept
"Hey,
everybody.
Enjoy the podcast," or say something like that, and then for sure we'll add you as a amigo on any social media thing. But that little message, if it's not clear that you train in your profile, send a little message and that you listen to the show or that you found us with this, and that really helps that process. Because sometimes I really don't want to say no to anybody that is a fan of the show or that is a jiu-jitsu person, but I don't want to say yes to people who aren't actually real.
Some of Gary's girlfriends.
But boy, they got great Facebook pages, Joe.
Excited about next week.
John Combs we have next week. Another superstar. So make sure you tune in next week and tell your friends to tune in next week for John Combs.
Guys, I had a great week this week on the podcast. It was great to have Mason on the show, and I think we had some great discussions. Both the quote, off the mat lesson, and of course the article was outstanding. Looking forward to bringing you all similar great content next week. So until then, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Train hard, train smart, get better. We'll see you on the mat, guys.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.